Thank you, Fintola. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 11th Annual Mel King Institute Breakfast. Wow, what a difference this breakfast is from last year's 10th annual. We were in a fancy hotel and, had our biggest turnout celebrating 10 years, and then 12 months later, look at where we are. So I hope you made your own breakfast. I hope it's hotel quality. You deserve it. But I would just like to welcome you all, and I appreciate your patience as we venture forward with this event in the virtual space that we're all existing in now. So I would like to just take a moment to just welcome you all and let you know that this event, in spite of all that we've experienced in 2020, we're still here for you as an institute. We're still, doing our courses, classes, programs, and trainings, and we're also responding to today's world. So we're not on autopilot, but we're here for you, and we're here to help you do the important work that you need to do, which is increasingly harder in today's world. There's like never-ending hurdles coming our way in community development and community building. So we really need you all, and we want you to know that we're still here for you guys. And to this morning, this is a way for us to just appreciate the work that you all are doing out there in the community, and also to build a little bit of spirit and inspiration. But I'd like to start by just pausing for a moment. I think it's really important to acknowledge the land that we're all on. And although we're not together, we're not in the same room, we're not on the same, piece of land, I think it's important to really think about, to be more mindful and intentional about how we connect to our land. So land acknowledgement is a statement of intention to be more mindful of Indigenous communities and appreciate the land that we're gathered on. Wherever we are, you are on Indigenous land. In that spirit, we recognize that we are all on stolen land, Indigenous land, the result of colonization, broken US treaties, and structural racism throughout our nation's history. And it's continuing today, as we all know, and we see people struggling every day to right that wrong. We also acknowledge the inequities that have harmed Indigenous tribes' ability to thrive, and that these inequities still exist today, only compounded by time. Therefore, I would like to pause and recognize the Massachusetts people. We would like to recognize the Wampanoag tribes, including the Nauset, Nantucket, Pennacook, Penconket, and Pocasset. We recognize the Mohegan tribe, including the Nipmuc and Pequot, and we recognize the Mohican tribe, including the Potukmuk. Sorry. Thank you very much. And taking this moment just to reflect on our Indigenous ancestors. So for today's event, we wouldn't be here if it weren't for you all and our sponsors. Each year we partner and network with a lot of people, but this breakfast is really a time for us to come together and celebrate. So I'd like to just take a moment and appreciate our sponsors. So our presenting sponsor is Eastern Bank, again for a 5th year, and our founding partners are LISC Boston and Mass Housing. And we'll be hearing from all of our partners later today in the program. Our platinum sponsors, JP Morgan Chase & Company, Keene Charitable Foundation, Mass Housing Investment Corporation, and our gold sponsors include Boston Private, Mass Growth Capital Corporation, and Wind Companies. Our silver sponsors, Blue Hub Capital, Kevin P. Martin and Associates, PC, Klein Hornig, LLP, Needham Bank, NEI General Contracting, TD Bank, Tufts Health Plan, and Wells Fargo. Thank you to all of our sponsors for joining us today and helping to make this event possible. Oh, I also want to encourage people to try to be as interactive as possible throughout this event. So many of us have become more Zoom literate over the past several months. So I invite you to use your clapping and your, actually you can do this, which is a really great visual from from the deaf community for clapping, and it's nice to see. You can also use the logos that are listed. So there's a thumbs up and a clap hand for the reaction. So I just want to encourage people to do that throughout the event today. So with that, I would like to introduce our first speaker. Eastern Bank is our presenting sponsor, and I'm pleased to introduce a leader who's really stepped up in the field and has partnered with us for the past 5 years. Quincy Miller is the president and vice chair of Eastern Bank. Quincy is committed to supporting communities where he lives and works, and he serves, as you can imagine, on a number of nonprofit boards. I will not get into them, but the man is very active. He is in the community. Eastern Bank has been a leader in helping small businesses, especially now during this crisis, and supporting Black and Brown small businesses across the state. They also recently partnered with LISC and MACDC and other organizations as part of Equitable PPP initiative to expand access to these critical federal resources at a time when our businesses and our communities really need it. Can we please welcome, and again, feel free, please welcome Quincy Miller.
Well, good morning. Thank you, Sharonda. Really so pleased to be here with all of you again. But before we get started, I wanted to ask everyone if we can first take a moment of silence to remember those who we have lost to police brutality, and let us remember those family and friends who we have lost to the worst pandemic of our lifetimes in COVID-19. If we could just take a moment of silence, please. Thank you very much. So first, I'd like to start off by recognizing the Mel King Institute for just the tremendous impact that you have had once again this past year. And I know it's in the digital yearbook, and lots of people are going to go through and talk about it, but I couldn't begin without recognizing some of the impactful things as you read through that, and it just touches you. First, 728 students across 80 community-based training courses that were touched is simply remarkable. 609 public housing residents trained, changing the decision-making authority in these complexes and helping them to be able to take back their communities. Again, just transformational and powerful work. We're proud to be a partner with MKI. And as I said earlier, I'm proud to be again here. And we're proud as Eastern to support this outstanding work. During the pandemic, Eastern is proud to have stood alongside many of our community banking partners, such as Berkshire and many other institutions, in help of our communities most in need and our businesses through both philanthropic efforts and through the support of the Payroll Protection Program. I'm proud of our banker, Chris Scoville, who was able to support MACDC with their PPP loan to help keep their staff employed. The Business Equity Initiative, led by Glenn Lloyd and an entire coalition, came together to support Black and Brown businesses who were left behind in the first phase of the PPP program, which was simply transformational. And again, as Sharonda mentioned earlier, the partnership and the work that's been done by LISC Boston, MACDC, and just a massive coalition around their equitable PPP initiative. We're just proud to have played a small part in supporting that transformational support of our communities and our small businesses that need that support now more than ever. So thank you for an outstanding year. I look forward to the success and how you take your vision and mission, both virtual in this situation that we're working through and on the streets. And I know more than ever, your work is more important. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Quincy. Thanks again for all your work. And thank you for reminding me that we have a yearbook. So we just put the link in the chat. We did create a yearbook, not a program book, because we're an institution, we're an institute. So we have a little yearbook. So please check that out. All right, this is let's see, a tradition for us here, our annual video, which is produced by the Mel King Institute Program Coordinator. So you met her before. Fantola Abiyahe is our program fellow and program coordinator, and this is her second year working on the video. And I'd like to introduce Fantola, and she'll tell you a little more about the project. Fantola.
Hi everyone, it's me again. I am Fantola Abiyahe, once again, the program coordinator for the Mel King Institute. And I'm excited to be here with all of you guys today over Zoom. But like Shonda said, every year we produce a video, just to honor our year of work, and just to inspire others to continue helping and supporting us to continue doing this work. This year we decided to make it a little interesting and do 3 videos, just because why not? We were like, we can't meet in person, so let's make three different videos. And so the theme of all the videos is leadership development. And that was really born out of the fact that Mel King Institute has been doing leadership development work since the very beginning, but we've never really called it out, specifically, except for really through our public housing training program, which is led by the lovely Sarah Burns, who you'll see in this next video. But we've never really called it out, even though we've been doing it in so many different ways, whether that's through our mentoring program, whether it's through one of our newest programs, the Intern Network, or even just through the types of trainings we offer. We're constantly trying to develop different leaders and different types of leaders in the field, whether that spans from different, races, ethnicities, different age groups. We're just trying to always uplift different people who are interested in the community development field. And so that's why we chose to focus our video series this year on leadership development. And so we're really excited to share these videos with you. The first video will be focused, like I said, on the public housing training program, and the other 2 will come up later on during today's event. And I just want to thank Transformative Culture Project for helping us produce these videos. This would not have been possible without them and all the lovely people that we interviewed to tell their stories. With that being said, here is the public housing training video.
So bear with us. We'll start this over again.
I'm sorry, were you not able to hear just now? Sorry about that.
Right, there was no sound and it was really small.
Okay.
It fixed itself, but there was no sound.
Okay, I think this should work. Let's try again.
Take 2, guys. Thank you for your patience.
My name's Sarah Burns, and I'm the director of the Public Housing Training Program at the Mel King Institute. Our program is all about leadership and leadership development. We train and provide other support for residents of public housing so that they can more fully participate in the decision-making that happens at their housing authorities. We believe that a different vision is possible, And I think that's where leadership really starts. It's believing in your vision for justice, showing people where they have common ground, and then enabling them to work together so that they can make that vision a reality, even when the rest of the world seems to disagree.
Leadership requires the ability to feel what my fellow tenants, residents, and all the stakeholders really are feeling, where they're coming from, what they're experiencing.
The trainings help me have the confidence to speak up openly in front of others without feeling nervous or scared.
I feel very fortunate to have attended trainings at the Melking Institute. I really admire the faculty that deliver these trainings. I find that those trainings have given me the knowledge, the skill, the encouragement, the power, and the tools to be an effective leader.
So we've all seen the million superhero movies where the hero flies in and he's got all the answers and he's got all these special powers. But we talk about how in real life, it's all about sharing power with the rest of the community so that whatever happens is truly a community win.
I was able to organize a fundraiser with my residents. We got together, we did a tax sale for any extra money that we needed without having to use the budget. And it was an excellent thing. Everybody asked for it every year after the first year.
The network of resident leaders that are formed through these trainings has allowed me to realize that I'm not alone in this. We are in this together. And I'm grateful that these trainings have continued since the outbreak of COVID-19.
Our program has had to retool like so many others. We're offering trainings online, and we're also offering a peer connector program where residents are calling each other to check in. And we've actually had an opportunity to really refocus and notice that the core of leadership is really all about relationships. It's about that other L word that Mr. Mel King likes to talk about. It's about love. It's about allowing a community's vision to come to life. So that's what leadership is.
Thank you. Wow, so I'd like to just thank the Public Housing Training Program, Sarah, and all of her leaders. It's quite a program, and it's been really impressive. So if we can give them a round of applause. I know, I'm not even. Our next speaker is one of the partners, and she's actually was essential in helping to get this program launched. To be included in the Public Housing Reform Law of 2014. While there are a number of partners that really help make this program thrive, there's one that's been like at it from the beginning, behind the scenes, and without her, this program wouldn't be here today. I'd like to introduce, for Mass Law Reform, Annette Duke. Annette, is Annette in the house? Is Annette in the house?
I am in the house.
All right, Annette, good morning.
Sharonda, thank you for those kind words.
You're very welcome, very deserving.
It's good to be here this morning. Good breakfast to everyone. I would like to actually focus my comments this morning on a little piece of history and a little bit about the birth of the Public Housing Training Program. As you all know, and as tenants know, tenants are really the eyes and ears in their communities. They live there. They really understand what is going on. But while tenants have a legal right to form tenant organizations, and as we know, I'm a lawyer, there are many obstacles to making this meaningful. Too often, resident leaders speak up and they're ignored. Too often, they're handed papers to sign off on that have never been explained to them. Too often, tenants are the last to know about what their housing authority plans are for improvements. They are talked down to, they fear retaliation for participating, and in some cases, they face eviction for their leadership. But resident organizations also flounder because they lack access to effective leadership training. Starting a group is really hard, and keeping it going is even harder. 15 years ago, the Boston Housing Authority asked me to do a training on tenant participation regulations. About 60 tenants were in the room, and one leader raised her hand and said, "Do you know how I found out about this training? I found this ripped up piece of paper in the garbage of my lobby." And she held up a piece of paper that had been torn in two and then explained that it was a resident in her own local tenant organization that tore it up and did not let residents know about the training. It was really a sobering reminder that leadership can be broken within communities. But at that training, I told a story about my mother-in-law, who started an elementary school out of a garage, one grade at a time, developing the curriculum, hiring the teachers, until it became a thriving international elementary school in Queens. I asked the residents in the room that day, imagine if you had your own school, where you could determine what you wanted to learn. And it was amazing. Immediately, a list of 25 ideas for training went up on the wall, and a core group of residents signed up to meet in order to start something. That something became the Boston Resident Training Institute, BRTI. And over the case of 8 years, BRTI, with the help of Mass Law Reform and AmeriCorps members and Mass Union, developed over 9 courses, trained hundreds of residents, and proposed new policies and initiatives. Then, in the wake of the Chelsea Housing Authority corruption in 2012, Governor Patrick established a commission on the public housing reform. We urged that the state make a deeper investment in training for residents based on BRTI's model so that residents could better hold housing authorities accountable. Housing authorities receive technical assistance, so should residents. No investment was made. Then in 2014, as the public housing law was being debated at the State House, Mass Union leaders fought for and won the addition of language into a law that made it clear that DHCD must provide independent technical assistance training for tenant commissioners and for local tenant organizations so that they can participate fully in the oversight of their housing authority. And 2 years later, DHCD made the investment and a statewide public housing training was born. It's a good day. Since then, the program has been cooking, and many thanks to Sarah Burns, the director of the program, for shepherding the development of this project in a way that is really developing new leadership and having an impact in so many ways. During the state of emergency, Sarah, with Bianca Diaz, a community engagement fellow at the Melking Institute, have facilitated almost weekly forums to keep residents up to date about rapid fire guidance that DHCD has been issuing to respond to COVID. Some residents felt abandoned by their housing authorities. Others reported that housing authorities were working overtime. But it was on one of those early calls that residents spoke about the urgent need for masks as we're all trying to stay safe. This ask for masks led to Mass Union working with Mass Narrow to send a joint letter to the governor asking for masks for all residents and staff and for $15 million in emergency funding for support. I'm really happy to say that within a week, DHCD announced that the state had located 3 million masks, 2 million which would go to public housing residents and staff, and 1 million for people living in shelters. And that this week, House Ways and Means reported out a supplemental budget with $13.5 million for public housing. That is really the power of resident leadership. So this morning, I hope you will all join me and raise your cup of coffee or whatever you are drinking to a long life for this state public housing training program at the Melking Institute. Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you, Annette. Thank you. And thank you for sharing that history. That's so important to know where we've come from to understand where we are now. You know, that history is really, really vital. So thank you. And thanks to everyone in that program doing great work. And I'd like to, again, acknowledge Sarah Burns, Bianca Diaz, who was our fellow this year, and Fentola Abioye. Just appreciate all of the Melking Institute staff. So, all right. So I think now is the moment we've all been waiting for. You may have not even known it. So we're going to keep this program moving. We have a couple of videos. We definitely have some speakers. We have a poet coming up later. But right now, we have about 213 folks that have joined us today. So we're going to do some networking. We're going to break into small groups. And this is your chance to actually talk about what you're eating for breakfast. You're on your own, so hopefully you had something. But we're going to break up into groups of 4 for about 7 minutes. And you will just introduce yourself quickly, no long speeches, please, because we'd like everybody to just weigh in your small group. Talk about what you had for breakfast, and maybe why you're here at the Institute would be nice, because there might be some way that you're connected that would be interesting. So in a moment, our my team will break us up.
She has been very inventive, developing new tools for us to communicate and tell our story. She organizes our notebook and collates a lot of information coming
So
in.
we're starting the recording again, just so you know.
All right. She's awesome.
Thanks, David.
Hi, Tony. I didn't know you were here.
Hey, Marilyn,
Yes.
did you get into your group?
I'm sorry?
Did you get into a group?
No, we were talking amongst ourselves in this group.
Oh, okay. Great.
Hi,
Well, let's
Sharonda.
welcome everybody back.
Hey, Shalonda.
Oh, hey. all these random shout outs. I love it. Hey, Ida. Hi, Lori Joe. All right, so we're going to get this party started again. Let me get professional here. I'm sorry. I hope you all enjoyed your networking. I really think an important part of the breakfast is the network, you all, not me. So I was really enjoying that little moment to meet the folks in my group. So I hope you all did too. All right, so we are going to actually see our next video in the series. And this video is about our community organizers cohort. We at the Mel King Institute really want to support folks in building their skills and abilities. And one way to do that is really think about what are the core competencies, what are the skills that organizers need to do their work, to demystify their work, because it's a lot of work, organizing. So we worked with NeighborWorks and Sarah Horsley from Sun Rising Consultants, and we created a set of core competencies, this great map of what the overall skills are, and then an assessment so one can figure out where they're at and what they need to learn to reach their full potential as an organizer. So this video is about that, the first cohort in that process. So whenever you're ready. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Pam Bender, Senior Organizer at MACBC. Back in 2018, the Mel King Institute partnered with NeighborWorks America to develop a suite of tools that would help organizers and their supervisors identify the core competencies needed to do organizing effectively.
The core competencies tool. We can use this tool to develop leaders out in the community.
We put together a cohort of organizers and their supervisors so that we could all learn from each other and test the tool.
We were able to assess different levels of leadership and how to advance people from one level to the next level.
And it gave us a lot of wider idea how to apply this work to ourselves.
The tool also allowed organizers to assess their skills and where they could get that training. And you might not be aware of what organizing abilities you already do have.
It's going to help us develop leadership internally in our organization. Likewise, we don't want to just build leadership within our CDC. We want to build leadership within the community.
The key tools that they gave us, learning from our peers how to do things in the community in the correct way was really, really helpful.
We all learned different methods of leadership development and community organizing. And this cohort was a wonderful learning experience.
Empowering the community to be a leader themselves. When this leader step back, they can still move forward, make the change, and do what the community needs.
I really hope this tool gets used widely, because if it does, I know it will result in much good organizing.
When I think about how I've seen leadership develop, it's happened when we've given ownership to the community.
It's the community who has a vision, and it's community development professionals who can help make that vision a reality.
It'll be exciting. It'll be exciting to see the leadership that comes out. Can we use this moment as a stepping stone to do even greater work?
And we need to work together to create a better life with a lot more equity and equality for everyone.
So a big thank you to all the folks that have that were part of that program. That was really exciting and a long time in the making. So, yay! So now I'd like to just continue to update you on some of the things that are happening at the Institute that are not in our wonderful video series. There's a lot in the videos, but there's also a lot that's not in the videos. So we'll take a moment to, as I mentioned earlier in the start of this event, you know, we're really here for you to respond to you. And, you know, in March, when the world went upside down, we immediately adapted, and our instructors were really flexible and willing to do that as well. So, you know, we are here for you and just want to talk a little bit about some of the programs that we have coming up. So for professional education, that's like our main, probably like the main way you might interact with us. We offer tons of trainings, and we're really going to try to focus this next year with, in partnership with LISC, with supporting project managers. Over the years, we've created a tool for project managers, core competencies. We've launched that tool. We've also had a series of courses that we offered, workshops, bringing those online for the fall. Everything will be online for the fall. But we're really looking at a targeted series for project managers, so please look out for that. We will be continuing our business certificate program, a partnership with Cambridge College and Mass Growth Capital Corporation. We launched this year. Very successful program. We started in person and then it became virtual. But we were really pleased with that, and we'll probably launch that again in early 2021. And also, in case you forgot or didn't realize or remember, we have a certificate program, and this is for people who take 11 of our classes. Well, first they enroll, they take 11 courses, and they are part of a small cohort that meets quarterly, and after completion of those courses, they receive a certificate. So today, I would like to congratulate Dawn Graham, who completed her Mel King Institute certificate, and we will be sending that to her in the mail. Is Dawn on?
I am. Yep.
Dawn, unmute and give a wave. Oh, there she is.
Hello. Thank you.
So yeah, it was great to have you as part of the program, and congratulations.
Thank you so much. It was great to be part of it. I definitely got a lot from it.
Oh, great. And just so that you know, we'll also be sending you one of these snazzy new Mel King Institute masks. So, and if anyone else wants one, more info on that later. Congratulations, Dawn. And I'd like, next slide, please. So we'll also be focusing a lot of our efforts around dealing with racial equity and racism through our Alliance for Racial Equity. Folks may remember this group. It's actually evolved. It's had a few names over the years. And the Alliance for Racial Equity is run by a steering committee of CDC folks, practitioners, and consultants, people who really care about the work and want to engage with it. And we have a number of activities. And I encourage folks to, you know, join us. We just launched our mentoring program, so unfortunately you can't join that, but there will be another cycle. But we are pleased to say, in partnership with CHAPA, we just launched our 12th cycle of mentoring. We have 13 pairs of professionals from the community development field that are paired together through the spring. Another element is our Undoing Racism partnership, which for years we've been bringing the People's Institute with our partners for the Undoing Racism training. We will be hopefully doing that this fall through the People's Institute. Please stay tuned, more information. But I'd like to also mention we're doing a survey right now of all the folks that we have trained through Undoing Racism. So if you are part of that, then please complete the survey, and we're going to see what people are really doing, especially now with folks being very active around racial equity, lots of uprisings and people wanting to take concrete action in their neighborhoods, communities, and organizations. So one way that we support people is through our Undoing Racism regroup sessions. People that have been trained come and review the concepts. Our last regroup session was virtual, and we had people from, I think, every state in New England, Vermont, yeah, we had from every state in New England. So it's a really exciting space for folks to revisit the core concepts of undoing racism. We have also launched a racial equity facilitators circle. It's been around for over a year now, but we kind of just evolved the name. And this is a space for people who are facilitating conversations on race and racism to get support, to dig a little deeper, to look at different concepts, to really talk about, you know, how to have the conversation. It's really run by the group. And that's an exciting space that's also in partnership with our Alliance for Racial Equity. And then I would just like to mention that the Alliance for Racial Equity also informs Mel King Institute's trainings. So one of the trainings that we are planning on offering this fall is leading with racial equity for board members. It's actually for board members and executive directors. I just didn't want a really long bullet, but the EDs aren't out of the picture. So this is a space where we would hope that the executive director plus some board members would come to a virtual retreat, which basically just means 2 sessions online where we talk about this. It'll be very interactive, and we'll be partnering with Judy Fryworth and another, and a board member. She'll actually be running it with a board member, I believe. So more information on that, but wanting you to know that we are here for you. We are responding to your needs. And if you would like more from us, then please let us know and send us an email. So with that, I will pause. And I'd like to take a moment to introduce one of our founding partners who's been mentioned before. So LISC Boston was with the Mel King Institute from the very beginning, when we were just sketching out ideas and we didn't have a cool name like the Mel King Institute. It was a really longer name. But we're really proud of our partnership with LISC. They're involved, they're a very active partner. We also support the LISC AmeriCorps program by providing trainings for the members. And LISC has been supporting the community development field and CDCs for many, many years. Very proud partner. I'd like to introduce Karen Kelleher, who comes to us with many years of experience. And as I mentioned before, very innovative work responding to today's challenges with the pandemic and supporting small businesses and accessing the PPP. Sorry, Karen Kelleher.
Thanks so much, Sharonda, and congratulations on a successful year. And we are so proud and honored by our partnership with Mel King Institute. It is multi-dimensional, and I won't go into all the dimensions. I get to introduce the video about building the community development pipeline, and in almost every interaction, that's a huge part of what we're doing together. I learned so much. I've learned so much from you. I personally have no business being called a founding partner, but I am proud to represent LISC in that regard, and my whole team in congratulating Mel King on completion of a great year. What I get to speak just briefly about in the building of the community development pipeline is that partnership around our LISC AmeriCorps program. This is the 25th year of that program, which is a very exciting moment that we really want to take. We'll take some time later this year to celebrate. We've had 150 full and part-time members placed in CDCs doing the work of community development, and 80% of them are hired by their CDCs. More than 75% remain in the community development field. And so that program and the partnership with the Mel King Institute is part of what makes that happen and makes it effective, because every member in the program is offered the opportunity to take 6 classes at the Mel King Institute. They can choose one, and 5 are sort of a course that Sharonda and Fantola put together. It's a great opportunity for them to take those courses in Cohort, and they get a certificate at the end, a deep part of our partnership. So it's one way that we are bringing neighborhood residents and people of color into the community development field together with the Mel King Institute. And with very few additional comments, I'd like to introduce this video that shows some other ways that the Mel King Institute is supporting young professionals that are entering the field. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
To me, a good leader is able to adapt while still remaining authentic to themselves.
A good leader is someone who can listen, who's willing to offer support when obstacles or challenges come their way.
To me, leadership is not one size fits all. It's diverse and it's dynamic.
We work at the Mel King Institute to develop leaders who are committed to being catalysts for change.
The Mel King Institute offers this really unique platform for intergenerational, cross-sector leadership development that fosters further community building.
MKI is a really wonderful resource for those who are seeking growth and guidance in how to better lead their community, their team, or a committee that they may be involved in.
MKI supports building a pipeline of young professionals to advance the knowledge, skills, and leadership ability of people from across the community development field.
From tagging along to meetings to participating in trainings, I've learned a lot from those who are real community leaders around me.
Through taking this intersectional approach, we're really able to cultivate the next generation of leaders in the field of community development.
Ranging from community members to board members to staff, MACDC and Mel King Institute have been a real tenet for my understanding of what the larger CDC community can look like.
During my time at the Mel King Institute, I really have appreciated the opportunities to network with leaders in the field, thinking about what does our work really mean in the greater scheme of things.
In the fall of 2019, the MKI Intern Network was launched.
The network is really open to young professionals willing to learn about themselves and where they could take the field.
Program participants meet staff in different roles and learn about career paths. We believe in amplifying the voices of young people with the training and skills they will need to become community development leaders.
Youth are facing this brave new world filled with so many challenges that we could have never anticipated. And I think now more than ever, including youth in the future of community development is really paramount. So with that being said, we hope that you join us to continue networking and building the field.
Yay! Thank you. Wow. I'd like to give a round of applause to Fantola and the Transformative Culture Project for those 3 great videos. Yay! That was wonderful. Thank you. So we talk a lot about pipeline and really supporting the field and so forth. So we're gonna, we're actually still doing that. We do that like we live it and breathe it. We're even within this program, we're supporting leaders. So we're gonna take a little transition now. We finished the program update and a little pause, an artistic pause, some poetry, which we know poetry was so important to Mel King. And he even came out with a poetry book just a few years ago. So he's definitely our lead poet and we take his inspiration, take from his inspiration. So with that, I thought it would be best for us to have a poem about food. Because this is a breakfast after all. It's a breakfastless breakfast for many of us. Admit it, you probably didn't have a breakfast with you. But I thought that we could, I reached out to a poet and commissioned her to write a poem specifically for this breakfast. And she was amazing. I think in less than a week, she came back with this really powerful piece. And I said a piece about food, something about food and eating or, whatever, like run away with it. So I would like to now introduce Asiyah Herrera, who I met through the program Future Chefs. So she is part of this program, training to be a chef. And we know how important it is to, have all industries be diverse. So I think this is a wonderful program. And I thought the element of food through poetry and somebody who's interested in working with food would be the perfect nexus for this piece of entertainment. So without further ado, I'll stop talking. I would like to introduce Asiyah Herrera.
Thank you for that introduction. I'm not sure if you can see me or not. I don't know. Hold on. There we go. Thank you for that introduction. So I will be reading two poems today. The first one is that lovely one about food. And the second one I'll be reading is a little bit about my family and my ancestors. So this first poem, again, is about food. It doesn't really have a title, so I'm just gonna jump right into it. When I peach pick, sticky juices running down my chin, devouring dusty skin and all, the familiar dust of summer, dust we eat. It seems nothing like a chore, and certainly nothing like labor. Dollars are exchanged for the experience alone, from blossom to blossom, row of laden boughs to nectar. But away from here, pennies are exchanged for 12 hours with scarcity of water, dirt-caked fingernails and exhaustion. No sticky sweet nectar here, only salt dried on brown foreheads, remnant of old tears and sweat. And there are days when I forget that the land was tilled by many brown hands. There are days I forget, between bites of buttery crust, sugary syrup between blossoms, impossibly sweet blossom to impossibly sweet blossom. And that's the first poem. The second poem I will be reading is called Kindling, and it's just, I feel like it's pretty self-explanatory, but it's just about my family and some of my ancestors. Kindling. My grandmother's kisses taste like red lipstick and black flax, bleeding ghost stories, both blood and body. Tree, family tree, branches burning. Ask me again where I'm from, and I'll tell you my ancestors walked here across the sea, fresh off the boat, yet so far from water. Somehow, I know they never knew I'd be buried on American soil, that I would never know my roots, never set foot on the dirt that raised me, earth tended so carefully by brown hands, that mi abuelito's house would be empty, and that what is an empty house but a pile of firewood. Ask me again where I'm from. My family tree is making itself known to me one fragment at a time. Upon an unearthing of bones after cremation, it's remembering Spanish, syllable by syllable. It's Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream. It's learning Japanese stroke by stroke. It's burning, cinders and smoke, branches ablaze like my great-great-grandfather's house whose remains served as a blackened coffin and left none but an orphan Japanese boy behind. That he soon started a new life in America. It's burning, like the fire that set my grandmother's house in Mattapan aflame, but that the insurance paid for her antiques to be reupholstered. It's burning, that wood burning always ends in rebirth, like a forest after a wildfire. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much. I feel like I just have to pause after that. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Elwa, noticing the chat. Wow, lots of appreciation there. So we would love to share those poems, Asiyah, if you wouldn't mind. I think it's nice for folks to reread them again. So we'll probably send, if we have your permission, them out to folks in our thank you. And thank you.
Definitely.
So now I would like to introduce our last founding partner, the founding partners. And Mass Housing has also been with us from the beginning. And I would like to take a moment to just introduce the CEO of Mass Housing, who's been a friend of the Mel King Institute for a long time, and MACDC, and participated in some of our programs way back when, but now in this role is really, supporting the Institute and is our partner serving on the Mass Housing, is represented on our steering committee. A lot of the staff participate in our training, so I feel like we have really evolved and have this wonderful relationship over the past 10, 11 years. And with that, I would like to introduce their illustrious leader, Crystal Cornegay. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Like Karen, it says I'm muted. Oh,
nope,
no.
We can hear you.
Like Karen, I wasn't at Mass Housing when this got started, although like Karen, I was around, and as Sharonda said, I've been a friend of Mel King Institute for for its whole life. So I'm very excited about the vision and to see how it's grown and to have been a part of it in all my roles. Was so excited to see how the public housing tenant program has grown. That was part of I was at DHCD when we got that started. Well, not we, you guys got that started. And so very proud to see how that's grown and looking forward to seeing what's next. I've been chatting with some of my people here, and them I see in the little boxes. And so this is nice to all be together, even if we're not together, and see people's faces. This, our keynote speaker is going to talk about a topic that's very relevant always, but on the front of newspapers, articles, and such today. And look forward to hearing from Dr. Asiyah Martin, who is the CEO of All Aces Inc., which aims to activate consciousness, catalyze critical thinking, and transform capabilities that advance racial equity and build resilience in organizations. All ACES offers an alternative to the traditional diversity, equity, and inclusion consulting and professional development strategies. Dr. Martin's clients include local and global organizations such as the Boston City Council, Google, and the World Bank. Prior to founding All ACES, her previous roles include Chief Resilience Officer for the City of Boston and the Director of the Office of Public Health Preparedness at the Boston Public Health Commission. Please welcome Dr. Asiyah Martin.
Good morning, everyone. It's so nice to see all of these wonderful faces on this beautiful day. I just want to say thank you to the Mel King Institute team for all the hard work to put this together. Thank you for inviting me to be the keynote. It is a pleasure and an honor. I went through my books to pull up my Mel King copies. For the record, both signed, so I'm very proud of that. And for today, I really wanted to reinforce the theme of leadership. We're in a moment right now that is all the superlatives. It is the most frustrating, the most exciting, the most painful, the most full of opportunities. And it's full of opportunities if we're able to step into our leadership. And I want to talk about leadership differently than how we tend to talk about it. We oftentimes talk about leadership as if you have to be in a formal position of leadership. Someone has to put you in charge of other people in order for us to be leaders. And a lot of that is based on traditional ways of thinking about power, right? Power over, and this idea that there's only one pathway to power. And so if we're looking at all of the other ways that power and leadership intersect, it's also at the individual level, our responsibility as individuals to be leaders in our own lives and in the spaces that we touch, that we occupy, that we share with others. And I want to get even more specific. So Mel King named the cover, or Mel King named his poetry book, Love is the Question and the Answer. And so for me, when I think about where there are opportunities for us as leaders, is this combination of love, hope, and action. And so, and I would like to offer a slight remix to the cover of the book, to the title, and that is, you are the question and the answer. So we've been struggling through a system with that we've been trying to change and shift. And we've been talking about it, especially when it comes to this moment we're in and trying to confront racism, trying to advance racial equity. We talk about the system as if it is something separate from us that none of us are involved in. We talk about it as if it is something that we are to, fight against, and it's something over there, that somebody else is the problem, that some other organization is part of the problem, when in reality, we are all part of the system we keep talking about. And what I mean by that explicitly is we have the ability to shift and change. We're at a precipice of change right now in Boston, in this country. And in order for us to really leverage this moment, it requires all of us to take back our power, to own our power as leaders. And that means that it's about reframing the issues and seeing ourselves in them. So starting with us means that we build our self-awareness. We build our racial equity literacy to understand that there is a whole historical context to how we got to today that most of us did not learn in school. And if we have not taken the time to learn that history, no one can magically import it into our brains. We actually have to take the time to learn it. And I'm not saying everyone needs to be a historian, but there are some key moments in history that if we don't know, we don't understand, we don't have the full context on how we got to today. Why do communities look the way they look today? Why do we engage with each other in the ways that we do? Why do organizations have certain kinds of policies and practices? For every industry, for every racial equity issue, there's a whole series of historical stories that explains it all. In those series of historical stories, again, we do not learn in school. And so that's one part of racial equity literacy, is understanding the historical context of how we got to today. Because in order for us to come up with the most effective and meaningful solutions and approaches to dealing with today's problems, we need that context. Otherwise, whatever we come up with will be woefully inadequate because it doesn't have that information to ground it in the full truth, in the full variety and complexity of people, our policies, decisions we made that we are not proud of as a country, decisions we made that we're not proud of in organizations, decisions we've made as individuals that we might not be proud of. However, the opportunity for us to move forward requires us to unpack that stuff. The other part of racial equity literacy is also about understanding the relationship between that previous context and what we see today. So today, how the data informs us about racial inequities. How the data, and when I say data, I don't just mean the numbers. I also mean the qualitative data, right? So there's the context. Again, the qualitative data gives us the additional context on what the real experiences of people are in our communities, of the real strengths, of the real power, of the real everyday struggles people are going through, not just in terms of the disproportionate burden of racial inequities, but in order to fight for their communities, in order to take a position and hold people accountable, hold the traditional leaders accountable for the decisions that continue to be made using old ideas and old formulas and old ways of thinking, because that's just the way we've always done it. And so in this moment for us as leaders in our lives, because everybody's a leader, starting with our own lives, that we take the time to learn that context, to know that we are just people. And as people, we have these foundational human conditions that oppression sits on top of, that creates a whole hot messness of complexity, right? That's really hard to untangle. And here's what I mean by that. So when we think about the human condition. We are not rational beings. So I know we learned that in the 90s, behavioral economics. So it turns out that wasn't true. We're not actually rational people by default, right? We actually have a lot of logical potholes that we fall into just as people on a day-to-day basis, because our brain, especially our unconscious mind, which can drive us most of the time during the day, is looking to simplify the world for us because the world is complex. And it works fine most of the time in dealing with basic and kind of lightly complex things. But when it comes to real complex things, we need our conscious mind. We need to be in the leadership position of how we are managing ourselves and when we're engaging with each other, when we're dealing with, especially, when we talk about people are complex. So we need that conscious part of our mind to be driving the ship. We need to be present in those moments. We need to be managing ourselves and the thoughts that are inevitably running behind the scenes, that are impacting our ability to actually hear what someone in front of us is saying. We have the opportunity to put aside all of the self-doubt, all of the insecurities that get in the way of us paying attention to someone in front of us, whether it's an individual, a community, how we're confronting a decision that we have to make, right? That we're able to do that well, that we're able to develop the skills necessary to do that, because by default, we are not rational people. And if we just own that and accept that is a thing that is real, then it allows us to actually have the humility that it takes to learn the skills and tools to manage ourselves better. And I'm not saying that this stuff I'm not saying that this stuff is easy. It's hard. As someone who tries to practice what she preaches, it is hard work. It is hard to engage with people who are on a different spectrum of their human development and their racial equity literacy than you are, and stay in conversation with them and have patience with them. It's hard to be in conversation and stay there and be there with people when we think we know what's best. We think we have the answer, and none of us by ourselves really has all the answers, right? And so this opportunity for us to manage ourselves so that we can really engage with other people, because what we know and what Mel King knows is that it takes a collective of people to move work forward, right? And part of this, again, leadership starting with ourselves, leadership in that power within, our understanding of ourselves, our understanding of all of the things I just said, and owning it and having that humility. The next piece is, what does it mean to then take action? Not just random action, but like, what does it mean to take strategic action informed by our racial equity literacy, informed by where we can influence and really lean on the levers of power, of traditional power, that are going to help us really move our communities forward. And that has to happen in a way that where we actually tap into our strength, that we actually tap into our feelings and emotions about things, so that we can get over the fear of what it means to have to step out there and take action and commit. To be committed to something is scary. You have to put yourself out there even when everyone around you is doubtful, is questioning, even people that we thought were more advanced in their development and their understanding around these issues. We still have to figure out how to move the needle forward. And in order to do that, we have to put ourselves in danger, which means that for those of us who, if we're talking about what's happening right now with the disproportionate burden of Black people being killed and mistreated by the police, then we're really talking about being accomplices, right? Allies, implies that there is no danger. Accomplices is clear. There's a little bit of danger involved, right? It means that there are people in our worlds who might not want to be friends with us anymore. That means that there are going to be people in our organization when we take full ownership of our power to act in our own spaces and in our own worlds. That means that, you know, we might lose some supporters to our organizations. Those are sacrifices that are part of the work. And we have to be honest with ourselves about what we're willing to sacrifice as leaders who say that we believe in these issues. And the most amazing part of it is Mel King's approach around the power with, right? When we have people who are clear about their values, who are clear about the fact that they are here for the community. It's not about them, right? It's not about, you know, taking things personally, that it's about doing the work. And when you bring a collective of people like that together, you not only multiply, you exponentially increase the impact, the movement. We're not always going to win, but the more action we take, strategic action we take, meaningful action we take, selfless acts that we take, the more likely we are to increase, to really increase the likelihood that we actually will have wins. And when we join forces together and we are able to hold firm to that vision and that goal of what it means to really do work well, what it really means to hold each other accountable with love, that being able to be in relationship with each other, conflict is involved. In conflict, there's healthy conflict, and it's necessary for us to come up with the best possible approaches and the best ideas. And that, again, it's not personal. See, the thing with leadership and traditional leadership is that there's this way out that often gets leveraged, that it's, well, I didn't do it. I'm a good person as the official leader, whether it's in an organization or whether we're talking about government. Look at all the stuff we've already done. Look at how amazing we are. Aren't you gonna at least acknowledge that we've been doing good work before now? And when people take that position, what they're really saying is, I don't see myself as a full leader. I am putting my personal feelings and my personal needs ahead of the official role and position that I am in. So any criticism we get as leaders who are in official positions and are in the traditional power over roles, it's like giving up your power in the role by saying there's nothing we can do. I mean, we've done so much already, right? And, you know, really, you know, I'm a good person. And so, you know, I'm somehow separate from the system that I'm in charge of. And that's somehow a way that we let people off the hook in leadership roles. Because, you know, we see their humanity and we feel bad, when the reality is they're not practicing good leadership. They are not owning their power. They are not leveraging the resources available to them in order to make change. See, when we own our power as leaders, whether it's in formal or informal positions, we're always looking for good feedback so that we can be better and do better. We never take it personally, even though it's hard to not take it personally. Let's just be real. Like when you have put your blood, sweat, and tears into something, the initial irrational response is to take it very personally. But the reality is that it's not personal. It's about doing better work. It's an opportunity to show up informed with the context that you need from the context experts, which are communities. And when communities criticize people in formal and traditional roles, when employees in an organization criticize the formal leadership, that's an opportunity to be better as an organization. Here's what we've learned at All ACEs. We work with organizations across the country. We've done some international work, and there's a pattern of thinking and behavior that we see with a lot of the organizations that we have engaged with. First, we see that whenever people of color in organizations or any underestimated group in an organization are coming and saying, we're having these experiences and there's a pattern. There's this consistent pattern of experiences people of color and underestimated groups are having in an organization. Well, it's not about the individuals having the experience. It's about the environment that the organization has created for those experiences to happen, right? That's part of the relationship between the organization and traditional power and what's happening in real life. And so if we own our responsibilities, then we say, instead of saying, well, you're a troublemaker, you're causing problems, you're creating conflict by bringing up these issues. If instead we said, that's interesting. I wonder what it is that we're doing as an organization that is facilitating those experiences. Then that gives us the freedom and the space to actually innovate, to swim upstream to the systems, processes, practices, culture of the organization to see how we landed here. And I want to give you a concrete example. So two actually, and then I'm gonna wrap up. So one is in society. So I mentioned kind of Black people being disproportionately impacted by police. And that's a light way to put it. We oftentimes frame it as a Black people issue, right? Like that's a problem that Black people are having. When if you swim upstream, the real problem is police abuse of power, the overuse of force, over-militarization of police, the deference to people who are people like us, and when they put on the uniform, they're still people like us, with all of the human conditions that I mentioned before. And somehow we act as if that's not a real thing. And we give people the ability to not be held responsible by saying that they were in fear for their lives. When in reality, we've all been taught to be fearful of Black people. So everyone is a little bit scared of Black people, right? And so when you swim upstream to, okay, so what are these challenges that are leading to the experiences? They're actually problems that all of us should be afraid of showing up in our communities. So it's not a Black people problem, it's a societal problem. And when you really look at you can go look at videos for yourself, it's showing up in white communities as well. And so when we're able to connect the dots between the struggles that we're facing, when we own our leadership power, we're able to connect with each other and join forces on issues that are actually impacting all of us if we slow down and pay attention and don't let other people frame the issues for us, because that's how oppression gets reinforced. Other people define how you're supposed to show up. If you're a person of color, there's a bunch of stereotypes, you're supposed to show up that way. And then if you are a white person, there's a bunch of prototypical behavior that we call normal that you're supposed to show up with. And for people of color, it's like a weird double whammy where you're supposed to live into these stereotypes, but also you're supposed to strive for whiteness disguised as normal. And what that does to all of us and our ability to see the world clearly, to see each other clearly, to decide who we want to be for ourselves, to decide for our organizations who we want to be, to decide how we want to collectively engage with each other in meaningful, powerful ways. Second example I promised you is specific to organizations. We worked with several organizations, and one pattern that people of color were experiencing was, I'm looking at this piece of paper. It's telling me these are the list of policies, or list of things that I need to do in order to get promoted. So I followed the list of things that says I need to do to get promoted, and I'm not getting promoted, and I don't understand like what's happening here. And when we swam upstream, we tried to get to root causes, why are people having these experiences? Well, it turns out in practice, we were doing something different in the organization than what was on that piece of paper. And the only people who could figure out how to navigate are the handful of people who were able to have the relationships and kind of engage with the folks to be able to tap into this informal relationship-based way people were getting promoted, which disproportionately is always going to burden people of color because of racism. And it's also impacting white people in the organization. There's a relationship. There's a reason why disproportionate is in front of the word burden. It's a burden for all of us. People of color are going to disproportionately bear that burden, and the stakes are higher. So that said, we have all of these opportunities as leaders to reframe, to slow down, to not allow other people to define who we're supposed to be, how our organizations are supposed to be, that we take back our freedom and our power, liberate ourselves to do the work well, to engage with people as real people like us, to manage ourselves better, to have better awareness of how we're impacting other people, and own it with humility when we do negatively, because it's inevitable. There are no perfect words. There isn't one way to do everything. We're gonna make mistakes and we just have to own it. And the last piece is around kind of the, where we have the biggest opportunity collectively, right? And so this is where I'm gonna land the plane. So in addition to humility, we also need to extend grace to people who are genuinely atoning for what they have done, the impact they've made, and they have taken the time to understand what happened, what they need to do differently moving forward, right? Because that's a part of relationships. That's part of the conflict management piece, right? And so for us to move forward collectively, we have to be able to understand, we have to be able to hold the complexity of the world and each other. We have to be able to hold the fact that we share these human conditions, and that I, as a person of color, can support without meaning to, and reinforce systems of oppression without knowing that that's what I'm doing, because we've all been infected with a lot of stuff. And if I understand that, then I know that I need to build some skills. I need to unlearn some things that I have been exposed to so that I can better engage with other people of color, so that I can better engage with white people, so that I can better show up as my full self, so that I can really be in the work meaningfully and with love. And that's the same thing for white people. This is hard work to do if you don't love yourself, if you don't love the people around you. And so making sure that we're being patient with ourselves, with each other, but we're also doing the work. We're not letting ourselves off the hook, but recognizing we are gonna make mistakes in this work. So I have this quote that I use it way too much, but it is my absolute favorite quote in the whole wide world. And then I'll tell you where I got it from. And if anyone has heard me speak before, you've probably heard this quote before. And it is, most people do not recognize opportunity because it comes disguised as hard work. Most people do not recognize opportunity because it comes disguised as hard work. We have an amazing opportunity right now in this moment to shift, to reimagine ourselves, our organizations, how we spend our money, how we do the work, how we engage with each other, how we listen to each other, how we partner with each other, how we get clear about strategy. I'm hoping that you will take back your power, take back and decide for yourself who you want to be. Who are you in this work? What are your values for how you navigate in this work as you begin to better understand the historical context, the social context, how it's impacting all of us? And it's not good for any of us. It's not about saving people of color. It's about us saving ourselves and collectively working together to save our communities. And so that said, I just want to say thank you for allowing me this time to be with you. It has been an honor. I will put in the chat the quote again. I'll say it one more time. Most people do not recognize opportunity because it comes disguised as hard work. And I'm sending lots of love, hope, and action to all of you as you go about your day and your journey. I hope you are able to lean into your leadership in your homes, in your families, in your organizations, because that's the kind of change we need. That is the system that we're talking about. So thank you very much. Thank you, Sharonda, for your leadership. Thank you to all of you for your leadership. Looking forward to seeing the rest to closing out strong. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow, so much to like think about there and digest. Thank you so much, Dr. Asiyah Martin. Thank you. And we will share the chat with you because I'm sure you weren't able to simultaneously read the chat while you were speaking, but you definitely resonated with the folks. There were a lot of wonderful comments, and I see the folks weighing in, and that you know, people are, they were a lot of like, you're speaking the truth. This is what we need to hear, and thank you very much. It is what we need to hear. And I would like to, as we bring this event to a close, I'm hoping folks can stay on with us another few more minutes because this is the most exciting part. I would love for you all to weigh in. We have a closing activity. I'd like to introduce Yolando Spinola from MAPC. MAPC has been a partner with Mel King Institute for many years. They are offered trainings through us and sit on our steering committee. And Yolanda is going to help us with this closing activity. It's very interactive. It'll take a few moments. So, Yolanda.
Great. Thank you so much. So I just added the instructions also to the chat, but I would love if you all can take out your phone or open up a new browser on your computer. We would love for you to answer this question. What's one word to describe today's breakfast? So you can answer that by visiting pollev.com/MAPC poll, and you will be able to submit your one word there. Or if it's easier for you just to take out your phone, you can text MAPC poll to 22333. So the phone number is 22333, and you're just going to text the word MAPC poll, and then you will be able to text your one word. So I already see some coming in and generating up. But if you do have any issues accessing the poll, just again, see the chat. I'm dropping the information one more time, and you should be able to visit the website pollev.com/MAPC poll to submit your one word. I'm seeing inspiring. So the larger words are what multiple folks are submitting. So the more people submit that word, the larger that word will become.
Oh, this is so cool, Yolanda.
Wow.
Looks like inspiring is in the middle. Wonderful.
Love it. A lot of learning happening today too, looks like. Powerful opportunities. Some people are feeling more awakened after today. Phenomenal. Love it. Humility, thankful, nourishment.
Wow.
Wow. Thank you everyone for submitting.
Thank you. Let's just, I guess we should just give it a few more seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, comforting, rejuvenating, supportive, grateful, thoughtful. I even saw food.
People are eating.
Which is great because this is a breakfast, you know, breaking bread. So as we begin to wrap this up, I'm going to let this go for another few seconds. We have one last ending. It's all about you guys. We've been looking at kind of speaker view. So I'll just give this another few seconds, and we're going to encourage you all. We're going to do a group shout. We're going to do a group shout in a moment where everybody will be unmuted. This is being recorded, so we'll be able to capture it. And we would like for folks to join in, and it's been mentioned today, the phrase, but it's Mel's phrase, love is the question and the answer. Wow, look at how filled this is. So we'll give this a few more seconds, and then we're all gonna unmute. I will count us off, I will count us down, and we'll sign off together, giving voice together. And I feel like it's really important when we end an event to everybody to kind of weigh in with their voice. So a few more seconds and we'll give that an opportunity. All right, I think we're done. Is that good, Yolanda?
Yeah. And I'll
Thank you all. Wow, that's great. All right. So on the count of, okay, this is what we're gonna do. We're all gonna say the phrase, love is the question and the answer. There it is. And I will count to 3, and after I say 3, you will start. So first, unmute yourself. And on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3.
Love
is the question and the answer.
the answer.
So thank you all. Give a little woo woo if you're still unmuted. I really appreciate you all joining us for today's virtual breakfast. Perhaps next year we will be all in the same room, but wherever we are, know that we are with you. We are here to support your work, and we value all that you do. Thank you for being part of our network, and thank you to all of our sponsors in Eastern Bank. And I'd also like to thank the MACDC staff and the MACDC board for their support. Thank you all. Have a good day.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.